Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And this is going to be a show that I'm really going to enjoy. But before we even get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, yesterday something took place on Undisputed that was brought to my attention yesterday, actually. After we had finished shooting, one of the viewers of our channel, and I don't remember the name of the person because there's so many comments, went and commented under the post that, let me see here, maybe I can unearth this post. This individual basically said that, hey, did you get a chance to see, here it is. He goes, did you get a chance to see the exchange between Bayless and Richard Sherman on Undisputed yesterday, and the person's name is Adrian Bailey 7671. So shout out to him. So I was like, no. And I asked him, I said, please, can you share the link? But I never got the link. So what happened? This morning, I woke up and one of our viewers, because I was actually searching for this thing, and one of our viewers sent me a message on Instagram, our DREAMERSPRO. If you're not following us on Instagram, our DREAMERSPRO account is DREAMERSPRO. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, my name is Charles Tabansi. My handle is CTABANZ. So anyway, he goes, did you see this exchange between Bayless and Richard Sherman? And he sent me the clip, and I was like, thank you, Lord, because now I can at least see the clip. So I look at the clip, and then I quickly search for the video in its entirety online, and I find out the video. And I see the exchange, and they get into this heated exchange on television over, a philosophical conversation that I really want us to get into today. So what we want to do is I actually want to play the clip. I want to give you guys the background. So the background was essentially this. They were talking about a hip drop tackle. You guys, I know I don't follow football that well, but we're talking about a hip drop tackle on Jordan Travis, a quarterback, from what I understand. And Skip was arguing against the hit. Right. And as you guys know, Richard Sherman was a former defensive player in the NFL at the Pro Bowl level, and he was disagreeing. So as they were going back and forth, they get into this heated dispute where Richard Sherman loses his cool and basically goes to Skip, and they have this little moment on television. So what we want to do is we want to play this exchange for you guys. I want you guys to listen to it in its entirety to get the full context of it, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to this exchange here.
You've been outspoken about how much you disagree with banning the hip drop. The soapbox is yours.
Just ban the game. Just ban the game of football. Ban it, because you're suspending Kareem Jackson for hitting too hard. Plays that would be on highlight tapes looped over and over when Sean Taylor did it, when Dawkins did it, when Ed Reed did it, when John Lynch did it. It was played over and over and over, but now it's dirty. You talk about the hip drop tackle. It's a football tackle. You want guys to not tackle, then put flags on them and they'll snatch the flags. But until then, if you want to ban this tackle, just ban the football game in general. It's too violent of a sport. It's too violent of a game. People are too soft these days. So just ban the game, because at the end of the day, runners are trying to drag defenders and gain more yards. And what a defender is trying to do is bring him down. It's not an easy thing to do. And for guys that have never done it, to sit there and tell you how it should be regulated and how it should be officiated is insane. I want you to see me at full speed, Skip, and I want you to try to bring me down. And when I'm dragging you, I want you to not drop your weight down to bring me down. I want you to just let me drag you as far as I can, and then eventually I'll stop when I get to the end zone. If you don't want that to happen, then just get out of the way. Get out of the game, because these people have not played the game, and that's clear when you hear them talk about it. This tackle should be banned. What part of it can be banned? A person having weight, you want them to not have gravity? You want them to not wrap people up around their hips? You're like, form them up. Well, you don't get to form everybody up when guys are running 4-3, some of the most dynamic athletes in the world. You're not always going to get them square and get them where you want them. Sometimes you're going to dive and have to try to wrap their hips up. And when you dive and try to wrap their hips up, you got to try to bring them down. And the only way you can bring them down is to drop your weight and to stop.
Yeah, I don't know how you, and as I said to you before, Skip, Richard played defense, and I don't know how you do it any other way. Now, I'm not going to go as far as Richard and say because you hadn't played tackle football, you don't know anything about it. I ain't going to do that. All right? But what I will say is... I'm not
saying he doesn't know anything, but I'm saying if they're saying ban the tackle, that's because you don't have the experience of dealing with it. So you're saying you should be able to avoid doing this. It's not possible.
It's impossible to do. I've said it on the air to you, Skip. I said off the air to you. You cannot. You can't. I understand the horse collar. Yes, you're yanking and you're pulling down. You're simply wrapping somebody down, and now you're pulling them to the ground. If they're getting caught underneath you, then that's just what it is. There's nothing you can do.
No.
What do you mean?
That's not what they're saying. You can wrap and pull.
That's exactly what they're saying.
All
That
you
is
want.
exactly what they're saying.
The
Explain
league
to me.
office is saying-
Explain to me
Okay,
then what they're
it starts from
saying.
the league office, they're keeping track of this. They say that the hip drop, the slingshot effect, is increasing the injury risk 25 times. So now we've seen Tony
doesn't matter
Pollard
what they're
career threatening. We've seen Mark Andrews career threatening, although they say he might try to come back. I'll believe it when I see it. We saw Geno Smith throw a fit in Seattle not too long. It was back in week 4, and he went crazy about the Giants because they hip dropped him, and he said, by the grace of God, he survived the hip drop. And now we see Jordan Travis. The problem is
What's
that,
crazy is the Geno Smith
let me
one was
finish,
to avoid
Richard.
a horse
I'm
collar.
speaking. I'm speaking. Thank you.
I'll let you speak, but you're not speaking from experience. So stop raising your voice, Skip.
Okay.
Talk to me, Skip.
All right. Are you going to let me speak or not?
Well, you're speaking on something you don't have no experience doing. So, I mean, what point can you really
make? I've covered the game
make?
for a lot longer than you've been alive.
You've covered the game.
Yeah.
I've actually played the
Yeah,
game
I
longer than
got
you
it.
ever played.
I
So,
got
like,
it.
what we're talking about is something that actually happens in the game that you can't experience unless you play it.
Does Rich McKay know anything about football? Keyshawn, help me out. Does,
Yeah, he knows about football. He
Rich McKay, he's an officiator.
He played a little bit. He's been around it for years. Yeah, he knows about football.
Does his father know anything about
Yeah, he knows
football?
about football. His father was one of the greatest coaches in college football history.
Oh, okay. So Rich McKay explains that you cannot encircle the runner and slingshot your body forward because you come down with your full weight on the backs of his legs. And if the ankle gets trapped,
Yes, that is
really
correct.
bad things are going to happen. And
Yeah.
we see it again and again and again. And I'm just giving you the highlight plays here. I'm only, this has happened repeatedly.
So here's what I would ask
have
you,
to-
Skip,
yeah.
and I would ask Rich the same thing.
Yeah.
If Richard Sherman hit me in my legs as I was going down the sideline,
Yeah.
hit me, is there a chance that he could break a leg,
Sure.
tear my ACL, break my ankle,
Yeah.
break my hip? There's a chance, right?
Okay. This is the slingshot effect where you're grabbing around the waist and slinging your body forward instead of just pulling down, just holding on for dear life. I got you. But remember, Richard, that this league wants offense. It doesn't want defense. I know you played defense, but it wants Keyshawn. It doesn't want Richard in the end. Well, that's the truth.
And you can have that. But what you're telling me is you're offering problems. You're offering statistics, but you don't offer solutions. There is no solution to this because you've never done it. And so Rich McKay can say whatever he wants, but he can't offer a solution. You can't show me a way that you want these tackles to be corrected because you've never tackled. And so when you're talking to me, I want you to talk from a place of, I'm talking from a place of a guy who's tackled people, who's been in an open field with a runner who can go anywhere. There's a lot of open space. They're dynamic, 4-3, 4-4, sometimes 4-2 runners. So sometimes you're going to catch me diving. And when I get my hands wrapped around him, I have to find a way to get him to the ground while their momentum and their strength and their power is going somewhere else. It sounds good, but it's not practical.
Look, Richard, here's what I would say. They're not operating from a place of doing it. They're operating from a place of studying.
Yeah.
And it's okay to operate from a place of studying.
So you heard the exchange between the two gentlemen. Now let me get into the nitty-gritty of this thing here, and I want to really take my time to unpack this subject for you guys because I think it's a nuanced one. First of all, let's talk about what we just listened to. There are two things. Number one, I believe Richard Sherman rudely interrupted Skip. I believe that Richard Sherman was being unnecessarily combative. I don't believe that Skip was trying to personalize any of which he was saying. I think that he had a position. He was speaking from his own vantage point, obviously from his own expertise. And Richard Sherman took it as Skip was shouting at him and all of that, when in reality he wasn't. If you watch the video, and I'm sure you guys will go hunt it down, you will see that Richard looked visibly irritated as Skip was speaking, and you could see that he was trying to restrain himself from going back at Skip, and he was visibly getting annoyed. right? Now, is it fair for him to get annoyed at what Skip was saying? Absolutely. But nevertheless, that's not a reason to continue to filibuster him while he was talking. He kept on interrupting and kept on interrupting him. And then Skip finally said, don't interrupt me. Now, why did Skip say that? Because usually the way things go is that whenever they present a topic item, Richard or Keyshawn will go first. In this instant, it was Keyshawn, then it was Richard, then it was Skip. Skip is always responding to the two people on the show, and that's where Skip was coming in. So Skip was like going through his point, and Richard started interrupting him, and then that's why Skip said, don't interrupt me. And then Richard took it to the other level of, don't talk to me like that, don't yell at me like that, when the fact of the matter is Skip didn't yell. He just said, don't interrupt me. Now, he said it with a little bit of fervor, yes, but he wasn't shouting at you. He was just like, please, let me talk, right? So Richard's response in terms of don't shout at me, I don't understand what that was. I want to get into the bigger conversation, though, surrounding this, because I think this is the conversation that needs to be had. The reason I believe this conversation needs to be had is because the sports media landscape is quickly evolving, right? And I'm beginning to notice some incongruities within the landscape that I want to address. First of all, if you listen to the crux of the dispute between Skip Bayless and Richard Sherman was simply saying, hey, listen, I played as a defensive player in the NFL, so I have firsthand experience on this particular issue. And he was going into the different nuances of how you tackle people. Obviously, their momentum is going in one direction. You hit them, there may be some type of effect. So he was going through it he was going through it at a level that only an NFL player that plays defense can go through it. So I totally understand that. But then Richard took it to another extent, which was, I'm speaking from a practical standpoint, meaning I've actually gone through this, and you're speaking about it from a theoretical aspect. And then something interesting happened. Keyshawn chimes in because Skip then, instead of escalating the situation, I think he learned from some of the blow-ups that he had with Shannon Sharp, and he tried to de-escalate the situation by just kind of being calm and kind of disarming him with questions, which were kind of loaded questions. He goes, Keyshawn, does this person know about football? Does that person know? And Keyshawn goes, yes. He's like, so what football experience do they have? I think he was talking about referees and all of that. So Keyshawn was like, no. And then Keyshawn says something quite interesting, which I believe presented a wrinkle to this argument, which was, you don't have to play football to understand football because you can study football. And this is where I want us to go. You see, there are a lot of morons on the internet, and a lot of these morons are arguing against themselves. I'll repeat it once more. There are a lot of morons in the internet that are actually arguing against their own interests. What do I mean? As you guys know, I had kind of a back and forth with Gilbert Arenas, friendly back and forth. There was no swears involved or anything like that. Even though some people, that's what they love. They love to see the stuff. But we didn't go that far. And you had some people saying, well, Gilbert Arenas played in the NBA. And I'm not taking a shot at Gilbert. I'm just making a point here. And I usually comment. I usually say something. I usually send him a message before I talk about him in shows now, so he's not taken off guard. But anyway, and some people say, oh, Gilbert Arenas got you. Gilbert Arenas, because he's an NBA player. They said, what could you know? You never played in the NBA. Gilbert Arenas played in the NBA. And they would use that as a vehicle to then say, no matter what you say, when you're speaking to an athlete that played that particular sport, they are always right and you are always wrong. That's the premise. So what did I do before producing this show? Before we produced this show, I went to the channel because I'll be putting up these polls. People be thinking I'll be bored, but I'll be putting them up for a reason. I put up a few things that I want to share with the audience here. I put up a first poll about 2 hours ago, and it says, should journalists be allowed to talk sports? Of the 1,100 voters, 80% said yes, 20% said no, which is interesting that 20% said no. I wonder who covers sports. I guess LeBron will play a game and then go sit down in the booth and then talk. People are unreal. And then I put up another poll. I said 2 hours after, I said, should athletes always be viewed as right when they talk, when talking sports with fans and journalists? Of the 418 people that have voted, 92% said no, 8% said yes. I put up another poll. I said, if athletes are always right when they talk sports, should Shannon Sharp be allowed to talk basketball? Of the 500 voters, 44% said yes, 56% said no. And then I asked the final poll and I said, if Gilbert Arenas says LeBron is better than Jordan, is he right because he played basketball? And then something interesting happened. 91% said no, he is wrong. even if he is an NBA player. And 9% said, yes, he's right. He's always right. He played basketball. And this exposes what was happening between Skip and Richard Sherman. There's something taking place here that I think we need to address now. Here's the facts. For a content creator that never played at the NBA level or played at any level worth being like a notable level, for you to then say NBA players are always right is basically saying then if an NBA player can now go to your channel and if they dispute every single point that you made, even if you know it makes sense, they're still right. That is the heart of stupidity. You're actually arguing against yourself, but nevertheless, some people unwittingly do this. Every single day they feel like they're doing something when really they're arguing against their own position. That's number one. Number two, I think that we're getting to a point where we need to really think before we speak. The sports media landscape is evolving quickly. One of the biggest shows right now in sports is It Is What It Is, of Alpha Cameron and Mace, people I grew up listening to, love their music, right? Especially Mace. These are musicians. Now, Mace played basketball, I think, in high school, and he could, I think, go into college or get a scholarship and all that, but they play basketball. But at the heart of it, they're musicians. They're known for their music. Nevertheless, they talk sports. I think most of us can assume that they are high-level fans of the sport that also play basketball, not at the NBA level. But they're talking about it. These guys are predominantly known for what? For entertainment. Shannon Sharpe is an NFL player. I've heard him talk on numerous occasions talk about basketball on numerous occasions. And in fact, Shannon Sharpe is one of the biggest proponents of LeBron being the GOAT. Now, here's what's interesting. A lot of NBA fans agree with Shannon Sharpe saying that LeBron is the GOAT, but Shannon Sharpe never played basketball, so why should his opinion be valid? I've heard a lot of people use some of the arguments that Shannon Sharpe has used to say why he believes LeBron is the GOAT, and they've never pushed back on that notion. Why is that? Here's what's happening. What is happening is simply this, and people have to be careful. You guys are going to try to create an environment which anything an athlete says goes, even if you know it's wrong. That is the essence of a sheep mentality. And I put up a post on the channel about an hour ago and I said, so political scientists can be wrong, professors can be wrong, pilots can make errors, soldiers can make mistakes, but athletes are always right? The follower syndrome in some people is beyond disturbing. Some people will forever be sheep. Now, here's the fact of the matter. I'm one of those people that believes that you can be self-taught to a certain extent, and you can study a subject enough to grasp it without performing it. Let me repeat it. You can understand something well enough to understand what's going on, but not be able to do that thing. For example, I can understand an NBA player going out there hitting a shot and them scoring and doing all of that stuff, but it doesn't mean I can do it. And to say that because you can't do it, it means you don't understand it, then how do we have fans in any sport? Are you suggesting that fans that go to patronize the NBA, the NFL, soccer, because they can't perform that thing at a high level, that means they don't understand it? Well, that'll be patently stupid and patently absurd. Number one. Number two, who said because you don't do something it means you can't talk about it if you study it? Look at D.L. Hughley. What's D.L. Hughley known for? He's a comedian. D.L. Hughley almost half of the time is talking politics. Is D.L. Hughley a politician? What political office has D.L. Hughley held for his position to be valid? His position is valid because he studies the subject matter. So how do people know what they're voting for when they're voting for various policies? Do you know that there's certain things that are quite complicated and you have to spend time understanding it? Let me ask you guys another question. If you need to be versed at a particular thing to understand it, how do you think NBA players understand how NBA contracts work? How do you think they understand? Now, let's go through it practically. The idiots will never win against me because I use logic. How do you think they do it? They get into the NBA, they're presented a new set of information that they now have to learn and someone explain to them. So you're telling me that an NBA player can never learn how NBA contract works because they're not a lawyer or an accountant? That's also patently stupid. It is stupid. The fact of the matter is this. I don't care whose mouth it's coming out of. It can come out of Michael Jordan's mouth. It can come out of LeBron's mouth. It can come out of any athlete. If they say Michael Jordan is not the greatest player of all time, I don't care. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're the president of the United States, I don't agree. I'm not a sheep. I can think for myself. And it's this herd mentality that's gotten a lot of people into a lot of trouble Because so-and-so will give you this, and you will say, okay, I'll do it because so-and-so said so. The sheep of the world. Question things. Question things. Because some people are saying you can't speak any power, speak truth to power. Because, well, you're not a power person. This is stupid, and I don't ascribe to it. Now, some people feel like, oh, you should. I don't care. I'm a free thinker. I'm sorry. I'm not a follower. I don't be twerking it up all over the place, knocking over people's drinks for dudes. I'm sorry. If you say something that doesn't make sense to me, I'm going to disagree with you. Have none of y'all ever been in school when a professor says something, you're like, hold up, professor, I don't agree with you. Oh, you agree with everything the professor said just because of the professor? This is stupidity at its finest. This is what it is. So to me, I think people are trying to overcomplicate this thing. We're not talking about thermodynamics. We're not building rocket ships. We're not building bridges here. We're talking sports. And I believe that most fans are quite capable of understanding sports. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of people that follow sports are not stupid. Hate to break it to you. A lot of the people that follow sports can think properly. Hate to break it to you. There are a lot of engineers. I saw Elon Musk at a basketball game. So Elon Musk can't comprehend a basketball game. He doesn't have the mental faculties and wherewithal to comprehend it. This is stupidity at its finest. At its finest. So to go back to the dispute that Skip and Shannon had, what I don't like is Richard trying to shut Skip down by basically saying you don't understand because I played football instead of actually presenting solid arguments. It's almost as if like a veil you hide behind. You run behind your veil because you don't want to explain your position. And I'm not with that. Kendrick Perkins is a basketball player. He thinks LeBron is better than Jordan. I don't agree. I don't care if Kendrick Perkins played in the NBA or he was a financial analyst on Wall Street. I don't agree. Sorry, I'm not going to twerk it up with you dudes. I'm not doing it. You follow these dudes. I'm not doing it. I'm not a follower. You dudes are. I'm sorry. I don't follow dudes. That's not I got my pops. I'm not following these dudes around. If you say something, I agree with it. I first have to think about it before I agree with it, not just because you said it. Now, it is important that I make this distinction before we close. Does this mean that athletes don't have more information on the particular subject matter given the fact that they're within that particular thing? Obviously, it doesn't. Obviously, they have information that we're not privy to. I sent Gilbert Arenas a text this morning because of a show we're producing. And he talked about, what did Gilbert Arenas talk about? He talked about, right, they were arguing LeBron, KD, and all that. He was talking about how different NBA markets make all of this money and why certain markets, make the most money, Chicago, LA. And I sent him a message. I was like, hey, Gilbert, I heard the part that you said about this. Can you go a little bit further into it? What do you mean why the NBA would like the reason I'm asking is because he has that information. So I'm not averse for asking these other guys for information because I know there's information that they have. But when we're talking about it from a basic level and a fundamental level or from a rudimentary level, I'm sorry, I can think for myself. I'm sorry. Now, that may bother some people, but I can't. And it just means that you're going to accept anything. So if a politician comes and hands you something and says, put this in your arm, you're going to do it because what? You're a politician. Or if a scientist walks up to you and says, take this, but you know you have questions about it, you're not going to ask any questions, then you're a bloody idiot. Across the board. It means your way of thinking is flawed. I'm sorry. This may offend some people, but this is exactly what I think. I am not here to twerk. I'm all for free thinking and then question things. Question things. It doesn't matter who's saying it. Question things at times. Even you question your parents. Your parents will say, do this. You'll do it, but you say, but why do you want me to do this? Now, sometimes when the parents don't feel like answering, they say, just do it. But other times, parents, you got to explain. These are my thoughts. Whatever y'all think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We'll catch you on the next show. Peace.